Begin again. Welcome back to Two Cents. It's your host, Ludwig Permanente. I hope you're having a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. Like the intro? Might stick to it. Originally, this video was going to be a completely different video about a completely different topic. But I wasn't really satisfied with the outcome of the video itself. I found myself tad bit too incoherent. My thoughts kind of just went on, and they're not very connected. So instead of doing a long video like that, I'm just going to do like a short mention of it and then a completely separate topic. Now, before the video starts proper, I would just like to say some things. Thing number one, why I don't put thumbnails on these videos. The answer might not be as obvious as you think. You see, I don't put thumbnails in these videos because I believe that you probably shouldn't be paying attention to the video and just pay attention to the audio. It's kind of like a podcast of sorts. You don't really have to pay attention to what's happening on the screen. You just have to hear what's in the video. Now, I know I probably poorly worded the whole not pay attention to the video thing earlier, but I digress. You might think that I should also put thumbnails in these videos because thumbnails boost viewer engagement and makes the chance of this series skyrocketing into popularity slightly higher than average. Because, when people see a thumbnail, they click on it, even if it's clickbait or not. Because I do that too. And you'd be right. It will probably boost the statistics of this video. However, I don't want to. It's not really just because I'm stubborn, but partly because I'm stubborn, but mainly because I I just don't want to. If people want this kind of content from, well, me, they guess they could just find it, I guess. I'm not the best one at the whole content making thing. There's probably better people who talk similar to me. So if they like me, then I guess they wouldn't mind me talking for another few minutes and what have you. But other than that, yeah. If they want my content, they probably have to be recommended to it by a friend of sorts. I believe in word of mouth. It's fine if the series does not get crazy popular. I don't know how to handle fame. And in fact, I don't really mind it not being popular. This series is just about me talking whatever I want. And if people want to hear me ramble, sure. This is kind of like a diary of sorts, but not really. And speaking of, if you do want to interact with, me, do leave a comment. I've noticed that for the past 3-4 videos, there had been a whopping mind-bogglingly high 0 comments. It's weird. The only comments I get are from me. I'm not saying you should force yourself to comment or anything of that sort. It's just that I'd like you to comment because I want to hear your feedback. Am I doing good at this thing or no? Is the way I talk annoying or is it perfectly fine? And I wouldn't know since no one says anything. If you do want to suggest something, you can also leave it down there. I mean, I read comments. That's why I want people to comment and say something. Because nowadays, the only criticism you can get is either by a different video or the comment section. And when I don't get comments and other videos to critique me, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm doing something good. Maybe I'm doing something bad. Maybe it's unique. Maybe it's just generic content number 5156. I wouldn't know. But yeah, so too long didn't listen. I don't put thumbnails just because I don't want to. Even if this video or this series doesn't get popular, I don't mind. And please comment. And now, to start the video proper, which is odd since it's now 5 minutes and 30 seconds since the video began, I would like to somewhat touch on the previous topic that this video was supposed to be based around. You see, I was supposed to talk about Greek alphabet males. If you don't know what jargon I'm using, it's essentially the beta, the alpha, and the sigma males, but more on the alpha and sigma males kind, and how their ideas of manliness are just really dumb. I know it's not a mind glow take. Everyone on the internet pretty much shares the same opinion, except for those that listen to those kinds of people. But other than that, yeah, it's a take that everyone can agree on. Well, not everyone, mostly, I guess. But yeah, I was going to like talk about it and bring up Andrew Tate, who got arrested allegedly for human trafficking. I wouldn't know. I don't want to know. I'm not going to make an accusation. I don't want to get sued by the Tate brothers. I'm a 16-year-old guy. I don't want to be fucking murdered by Andrew Tate fans. Anyway, I was going to bring up Andrew Tate and how he shoves this very, let's say, toxic idea of manliness where you have to be macho, you have to get paper, you have to get the bitches, you have to pretty much have all the attention of the world fixated on you. And if you don't have the attention of the world, then, well, you're a useless nobody that deserves to be stomped on, which is very wrong. And for many reasons, uh, people have brought up better arguments about how Andrew Tate promotes toxicity, but to me, one of the main reasons why it's really dumb is the fact that we have to define others by social status. Sure, you can be successful if you have like a lot of women, a lot of, say, money or reputation, but then what? Maybe the castle you've built that you think is made of stone is actually just made of sand, and it will eventually slowly come down on you. It will cave in eventually. You just don't know when. And to me, building a reputation for, well, what Andrew Tate's doing is that it's building a castle out of sand and expecting it to stand for decades. Maybe it would. Maybe I am entirely wrong about how I see Andrew Tate, but I guess I'm going to keep what I already have. It's my opinion, and while I may disagree on others, I do know it's their opinion, and I may or may not respect it. Either way, it's my opinion. You can't take that away from me. Oh god, I was supposed to lightly touch on this topic because I wasn't able to think of anything last video. Okay, so now we're at the fun part of the video. This was going to be the replacement topic for the Greek alphabet male thing. It's going to be a story of how me, a very dumb person, got a scar on their wrist and lived. Ain't that wacky, huh? Anyway, our story begins in 7th grade, some 4 years ago. It's kind of odd how 2019 was already 4 years ago, but let's just roll with it. It was the end of a school quarter. I believe it was the end of the third or the second one. Either way, it was the end of a school quarter. And in our school, we get awarded something at the end of each quarter. Say, if you were performing really well, you had like grades that are above 84, and you had a general average of 90 and above, you get what is known as the Achievers Achievement, which is kind of weird to say out loud, but it used to be called Achievers. It's now just called with honors, which is still odd, but I guess not as odd as Achiever Achievement. But anyway, it was going to be an event, since it always was, since I was in that school since first grade. Every time this end of the every time this end of the quarter thing ends, it's always an event. Usually it's on stage, but as time went on, it eventually started to go into just classrooms now. So we were preparing the classroom for, the parents to get inside the classroom. Because the way this thing works is you and your parents are going to be there, because this event, after ending, would also result in a card collection where the teacher would give your parent the card. And if you don't have a parent there, you can't get your card. Well, maybe you can. I don't really know the exact rules of it, since I usually leave it to either my either my grandpa or my uncle. Either way, gets the job done, and gets the job done really well. So we were cleaning because we were preparing for the the event and all that, and one of my classmates couldn't open a very specific window. It was, if I can remember, the first window on the left wall. Now, me, being a completely helpful chap, decided to ask my classmate to step aside for a bit and let me open, since, well, I may be fat, but I'm surprisingly strong. I mean, I can open and close those kinds of windows. I remember opening that window a teeny tiny bit back then, so it shouldn't be that big of a problem. And that was probably the worst mistake I could have ever done, which was underestimate a really old window. So I tried opening the window. First push, it did not budge. Second push, it still didn't budge. Third push, it budged ever so slightly. And I was like getting really annoyed by it, because it's a stupid window. Why won't it just open? And so I resorted to punching the window. I wasn't punching the window pane directly. I was punching those bars that you have in the window, since those kinds of windows still had those bar things that are, you see, where you kind of like open and close them instead of sliding them. But anyhow, I punched those bars, and the first punch, it still didn't move. The second punch, it didn't move. And in the third punch, since it wasn't moving, I was going to give it my all. So I punched it. And by it, I mean the window pane. I did not hit the window bar. I completely missed and broke the entire window pane. And then it took roughly 2 seconds for me to realize I may or may have not accidentally hurt myself. And at first I thought it was going to be, oh, a small wound near my wrist. It shouldn't be that a biggie. But then when I put my palm on it, the bleeding did not stop. And it was actually getting a lot faster. And I was kind of alarmed, but I wasn't fully alarmed, since I was just applying pressure to it. it should stop, but it probably didn't for a while, and I didn't know how severe the wound was until I went to the guidance counselor's office to like get a bandage. And when I looked at it, it was a gaping wound at my wrist. So I was sent to the school nurse. We didn't have the tools, so I was sent to a different hospital. They still didn't have the tools, so I got shipped to another hospital where they actually got tools, and I got my wrist stitched closed. Now you might be saying, how am I alive? I had my wrist slit. Well, and this is a very crucial part. Remember when I said I was a bit fat? That fatness may or may not have saved my life, because when it was being stitched closed, I was watching it be stitched closed. I didn't feel any pain, although I noticed that of the entire gaping wound, it didn't go any deeper than the epidermis. It just slit the skin open, but that's about it. And to this day, I am thankful to the high heavens that I did not die that stupidly, that short. And that's how me being fat saved me from dying at one point. It was quite scary at first, but nah. And if you want proof, I could probably like show a picture of like the wound. I mean the scar now, since it's no longer wounded. It's a scar. The nerves on the skin of the wrist is still a bit fucked, but it's manageable. And so, with that story concluded, I would also like to conclude this episode of the 2 Cents video. I know I keep referring to these videos as this videos because I live in a third world country. Don't expect me to have perfect English. I'm really trying my best. But anyhow, this is the end of the 2 Cents video. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to me ramble about Andrew Tate and my wrist. And I hope you're having a nice day, evening, or afternoon, whatever time of day it may be. And remember, to begin again is to let go. Ciao.